Hey, Ben.
What's up, dude?
You busy?
No.
I can't stay inside anymore. You want to go to the store with me?
Yeah, but maybe not the one right down the road. That creepy guy is always hanging out there. Makes me nervous.
I mean, he's probably not. And don't worry about it. We'll go in and out. No problem whatsoever.
Okay, let's just do it quick.
Hey, man, come here. Yeah, come here. You like dice?
Come on, Ben. Just keep moving. Just keep walking.
Let's go. Well, what's that in your coat?
Oh, this right here? This is just a harmless little old D20. You roll a natural on one of these babies and you'll never want to feel anything else ever again. Come on, why don't you give it a shot? The first one is free.
All right. I mean, I don't see what good. Whoa, natural
Ben!
20.
No!
Give me.
Welcome everyone to Roll Havoc. I'm your host, Sean ASTGB Jack Steelman, and today we're going to dig into one of our favorite adventures from our Eberron campaign, the Battle of Turakbar's Fist. On the line today, still on a victory tour after the Dungeons and Dragons trivia panel at DragonCon 2014, the Dungeon Master of Disaster himself, it's Ben Grunzel.
My hand is sore from all the waving.
Yeah, I'll do that. I think some icy hot might help.
Yeah.
And he gets an annual pass to Jurassic Park every year. It's our friend Josh Plotkin.
Hey, actually, it's a lifetime membership now.
How many years in a row has it been? It's been a lot.
Every year of my life.
You get the resident pass for being on the material plane. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then also with us today, I'm very excited, our first guest / party member and the secret fifth horseman of the apocalypse. That's right, the horseman of Facebook rage posts. It's our good friend, Trevor Dow.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Excited to get this show on the road.
Hell yeah, we couldn't talk about this one without you. I don't think it would be really hard.
Absolutely not.
So the Battle of Turakbar's Fist was this turning point in the campaign where we came back from about a month or a couple months off, just a little bit of time off. So the characters had been, we set them on like interval side quests, if I remember that correctly. And so we came back from this little bit of a rest. And so the characters we had were, I know my character was Bakram, the paladin. He was a Oath of Devotion paladin. I think we were what, level 13?
12,
13. Yeah. So Bakram, this Oath of Devotion paladin who was Dragonborn and had been following all of these different clues to the Draconic prophecy in Eberron that's kind of sprinkled throughout all of the lore there. And so what were your characters up to? I don't remember exactly. But that's pretty much what Bakram was when we came back from this break. He had just like been traveling all over doing pretty much just working for people.
Well, let's see. I was Rurik, a level 12 Holy Zealot Barbarian. The Hulk, not Hulk, is what he was at that point, because I believe he was pretty fast already. And what he was doing is he went back to his tribe, basically where he came from, the ones that fought Rakshasas in the Demon Wastes, to basically reconnect back with them, because it'd been a bit since he went back.
I think at a point you wouldn't call that fighting. We just like started, like we had so much piercing damage, so much holy damage. This Rakshas is just, it's like a barbecue.
Yeah. But that's what he does for, like, his living as well. So it wasn't even a vacation for him. So he needed a vacation from his vacation. That's where he ended up, was back in Greywall.
Yeah, Asterio, my character, Rogue, he was a member of the Eyes of Ondair, and I was doing pseudo-political / spy work, then ended up back at Greywall because I heard that, my two best bros, my meat shields, as I
was like,
referred to them lovingly.
Your bonus to saves is more like it. Your bonus to every save that's not dexterity.
Bonus to saves and then also my convenient hiding behind partners for all my stealth damage.
So we had the rogue who could never really be seen, who was doing some political work on the side. We had the Holy Zealot Barbarian who had gone back to his homeland to reconnect with his people. And we had the Paladin who had gone and done his pilgrimage after whatever event and gained like his new color of scales type of situation. Really interesting that we have these characters coming back to meet in Greywall. Now, Ben, so this is Droam, like we're going into Droam. Why did you want to do Droam? Like that's like something I've always kind of like, I'm really happy we did.
Yeah. So
Monsters.
Droam is, and this is in the Eberron setting on the continent of Corvair, where most of the action takes place. Droam was part of one of the 5 nations that, in Eberron, the 5 nations had a civil war that lasted 100 years and fractured into multiple kingdoms, and Droam was always like the wilderness full of monsters. And it actually started organizing near the end of the last war under a coven of hags that were all the daughters of Sorakel. And they started organizing the ogres and trolls and minotaurs and harpies, and they're trying to form it into a nation. They weren't formally acknowledged as a nation yet, but they're trying to get there. And your characters were all, Rurik and Bakram, a Gash Kala barbarian and a dragonborn from another continent, were already kind of outsiders, jumping right back into like something in like one of the more civilized kingdoms didn't make a lot of sense. And Asterio can go anywhere since he's a changeling and working for a spy network. Droam seemed like a good opportunity to possibly get, into some political stuff that would fit outsiders.
And the hags were a good way to do that, like a fantastic way to do that. And so it's the country ruled by these hags. We meet up in was it Greywall, right?
Greywall, yeah, is like the kind of
the town of monsters.
Yeah, it's like the last like somewhat civilized city, kind of close to the border of Breland, one of the proper nations. Yeah, and it's like ruled by a mind flayer. So I mean, it's
it's efficient. The government is very efficient.
or else.
So I thought that was always a really cool setting for us because, like you said, like we always had the characters kind of like more monstrous, and then also like Trevor's character was the perfect fit for this as well, because that's where the political side of the campaign came in. And I remember you talking about how it was kind of like you really liked the political intrigue of Eberron and how you wanted to get into it, and like Josh and I rolled characters that just wouldn't be in it. So it was really cool that we still got to interact with that in a really neat way, and it was for working for evil creatures, and it was like very interesting having this like this holy zealot barbarian, this good-natured rogue, like spy for the royalty, and then also this paladin, a paladin working with evil creatures. Is like, it's really cool that we did stuff like that with the story.
And not just like evil creatures, like seriously evil creatures.
Like they eat
creatures,
babies.
Creatures you knew were eating babies.
They eat babies.
And yet we were like, there's a lot of problems in this universe. We can't solve all of them.
But what we can solve? The demons that are running around their lands right now. Hell yeah, we could solve those.
Easy.
So that was why we had actually met up with them. And so that's what Asterio, Trevor's character, had done for us and gotten us kind of like a interview. What is it? Audience. That's the word. See, my brain yeah.
And I believe part of that was because I talked with Josh and we kind of decided that his tribe, the Gash Kala, the orcs and half orcs of the Demon Waste, were like, something was wrong with their homeland, and they were like, basically their sacred sites were losing power, and they were kind of needing to flee the Demon Waste, or at least a number of them. So basically you had like refugees that like were able to cut through the Eldine Reaches, because you guys had worked with the druids there, trying to settle in Droam. And it's like, well, even you need to talk to the hags before you settle an army of zealot
or
holy zealot
somewhere.
Barbarians.
Yeah.
In your mostly evil country.
But the thing is, it was like, so I remember one of the reasons we decided to do it was because we found out there was a font of silver flame beneath it, right? So we actually had like access to the silver flame. Then that was what the demon was corrupting. Wasn't that?
I
Was
can't.
that?
I can't remember if that was something. If you knew that ahead of time,
Or
or
if
if that
it's
was
we just
something you
found
got
it.
discovered later. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, I do know it does happen, but
Yeah.
and that was like we can talk about. I guess we could talk about like the benefits of that. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll right back around to that.
yeah, we'll
But
come back around to that. But
I
the
thought the hags told us about that, but I
they
could
might
be
have.
mistaken.
Yeah. It's been so long I couldn't remember
Yeah.
details. But yeah, that was definitely
it was really cool.
part of it. Yeah.
So we have this paladin and this holy zealot barbarian working for these evil creatures. And I'm just really glad that like we weren't playing any type of characters that were lawful stupid. And we're just like, nope, they're hags. We're gonna have to kill them. It's like we'll take their money first, and then we'll kill them, and that makes us good guys.
Like it was definitely one of those situations though, like, you know, I had played Eberron enough times to know who the daughters of Sorakel were. And when they were able to stat them out in 3.5, I knew what their challenge ratings were then. And so I knew as a level 12 character, I was like, this is not a fight. This isn't a fight. This is plot. This is plot.
This
Okay,
is a
because
job interview.
if it was
This is a job. This is a job
I'd be
interview
dead right now.
I'm wearing a suit.
Yeah.
I am answering questions.
Yeah. In general, in Eberron, the rulers are not necessarily high level characters because they rule with political power, not sword power. You don't have. It's not like if
And
you're
the rest of Corvair is ruled by houses. So it's like the power is definitely like within family circles. They don't have to be high level. They just have to be rich.
Yeah, but the daughters of Sorakel are one of the few no, these are a known power. Like
If I recall, I believe one of the sisters, the militant one, in fact, has her own private platoon of war trolls in which she leads into battle herself when they go to war.
Monstrous. That was beautiful.
That was just a lot of indication that we,
So these hags pull us in. We have this really cool RP session with the three of us negotiating with these hags, and it's not anything like there was none of that. Like, well, we're gonna end up killing these guys, right? And I was like, no, like we're gonna work with them because they're pointing us at demons, and that's what we like to kill. Like that's our whole thing. We like killing demons. Hags can come later. They're like 10th down on the list at this point. And so it's really cool that we were able to do that. And I feel like we made a lot of decisions like that with the story of this game, where it was just kind of unconventional. It was just made the plot go in really interesting ways. So for the battle itself, we get set up. They tell us we go, I think, what was it? We had to go find these. There was a tribe of gnolls that were having issues. I can't remember exactly what the problems were though.
Yeah, like gnolls are typically in Eberron, they're mercenaries. They're not, they're more neutral than anything else. Like they're still considered monsters, and a lot of them are found in Droam, but if you see them outside of Droam, they're mercenaries. Like they could be on anybody's side, and they're not like I think they've thrown off like their traditional worship of Yenog. They got like the traditional god of gnolls in most settings, but basically there was some evil influence, and you guys went there and found out that like there was like a hidden cult of Yenog corrupting one of the I forget what they're called, one of the packs of gnolls.
It's I believe it's called the Zanir pack.
Yeah.
Like that's the one that like they still like were spawned by Enog, I guess, in the Eberron universe, but like they've left that behind in parts or something like that.
Yeah.
They're
not like active demon worshippers. Like they acknowledge that they have a connection to them, but they're more concerned. And they don't fight each other typically, but and I believe you guys fought an aspect of Yenog.
That was an adventure that we did. We actually went and like found that pack of gnolls, and so that was the quest bait, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great fight. Like finding aspects of demon gnoll gods is always a good time. You can't not have a good time.
And I remember the fight actually being very dynamic with that thing, and it was solely because I think there was like a line somewhere in the battlefield that if you crossed it, there was a lot of damage that was going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was the thing.
The thing was fast too, because like it was an amped up. It was like an amped up gnoll warrior. It was just like insane.
That was fun. Even though there was only one enemy, I remember it being pretty intense.
Yeah. To get us back into the swing of things after that long break, right? That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the idea was that we go, if the hags convinced us if we went and helped out that pack of gnolls, they would help us take over this fortress that was also a thorn in their side.
Yeah.
Which was being run by a demon worshipping minotaur.
So Turakbar was a minotaur who had a group of minotaurs and a few other gathered lackeys. Droam has a bunch of warlords, basically, and the daughters of Sorakel keep them in line. And Turakbar is one of the more bloodthirsty ones. And basically, anybody who left Greywall, which was like in theory, Breland could trade at Greywall. You could have different races come in there and trade. But if anybody went west, they were probably going to get hit by raiders. So minotaurs and harpies. And he was known to work with demons too. His lair was like this big, like jutting obsidian spikes, caves in it called a Turakbar's fist. And they're like, yeah, he's a problem because we're trying to get everybody else in line and he pretty much does whatever he wants. And we've been okay with that for a while, but we're not anymore. And if you guys are looking for a place to hold a whole bunch of orcs, that place would work. Plus, I think that was when I mentioned that. Yeah, plus there's a font of the Silver Flame there that's holding a demon, which is typically what the Silver Flame does. It binds evil, but that also means that there's a demon there, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. So yeah, it was like, you guys obviously main thing is hating demons.
Wasn't one of the daughter's other motivations because not only was Turakbar hitting the people coming from Breland, but also lashing out at the other like warlords in Droam.
Yeah, it didn't play nice. It didn't play nice.
Exactly. Yeah, it didn't play nice. Yeah, and like the role playing with the hags was kind of cool because you had like the one who did most of the talking, who was like, she's like the manipulative one, which was interesting. And then there was also like, there's the muscle one who was actually, I think, traveling with you guys from Greywall to Droam disguised as a goblin. And, she's like a hag who can like go to toe with a giant.
Yeah. Didn't we had her in a boss fight, I thought, in one of those boss fights.
I think she tested you at some point. Yeah.
Was that like after, I remember seeing her in action. It was nuts.
Yeah. I think at some point it was just like you lasted like 3 rounds of combat and she was like, okay. I'm impressed.
You did all right. You did okay.
And then there's the Dusk Hag, who could like see the future. So she was like the one who did the planning. And she was like, I was able to like drop some hints about the Draconic prophecy.
And I ate it up.
Death.
I ate that shit up.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me. I literally have notes still, like from like 2 pages of just like little like lines of Draconic prophecy that Ben gave.
Yeah, and I had to come up with some interesting sounding stuff that could be riddles and could be interpreted lots of different ways. And then
it was fun. It was a good device. Yeah. It was a good device for getting like the plot to move. And like it popped up here, and I was like, fuck yeah. So Trevor did a lot of the negotiating. Rurik and Bakram talked quite a bit, like just about this, and then so we got the plan in motion to go take on this fortress using a really cool battle system that Ben found, and that battle system came from Matt Colville, right?
Yeah, it was his Strongholds and Followers supplement that he kickstarted, and I thought it was awesome because using domain play and rules for mass combat just sounded really cool. And this was the first chance we got to try it out. And we did it a few battles over the course of the campaign, but this was the first time and it went pretty well.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. So after we did the side quests and the political intrigue and we got everything all set up, it was like, all right, now it's time to go take on a fortress. And so we have a literal battle system that was out on a map on Roll20. And it was really neat because Ben had individual unit markers on this battlefield. And it was like literally, it felt very cinematic because we did this battle scene with all these units we had like 5 different units that we could control versus these monstrous units of demon worshipping minotaurs and their different like cavalry types, and harpies. We had to fight units of harpies too. So it was like we had infantry, we had archers, we had siege, and they all did something different. You guys might have to like remind me of some of the mechanics, but it was just that was really cool. So, and also while that was going on, we had a boss fight with the actual party. And so it's this really dynamic cinematic feel to this particular adventure that made it feel really quite unique and awesome.
In other words, it was intense.
Yeah.
Really intense.
Stressful.
It was stressful. I remember
it felt very Avengers, if I could say that.
I could see that. Yeah. And we did that a lot. We always like compared stuff to anime with our campaigns too, because like literally I sometimes picture Rurik as Brawly with a battle axe from Dragon Ball Z. Like that's just like
that's pretty close to the end part of it. Yeah.
It's literally just like that's what he is to me. I'm
obviously Goku flat character, that's what I always went for. But yeah, I like Brawly. Yeah.
I guess the closest anime reference Asterio could have been would be the Invisible Girl from My Hero Academia, because never be seen,
We're
and
not
then
sure.
laser bolts coming from wherever.
Yeah.
Constant joke. So the battle itself, we played through the rule set that Ben found, and I don't know, it worked out really well. Like the units themselves would take turns, and it'd be like our side of units. We would position them, we would pick whether they attack or they defend, who they're attacking, and then the units on the other side would get a chance to go. And it's like we had to use every unit, I think, before we could move on to the next round.
I think it's like our unit, their unit, our unit. They basically had to go back and forth until everything was exhausted. So if you got the advantage by getting rid of one of their units, you suddenly had more turns than the opponent did. And that's like something that's right. This is the first time we played. We didn't really understand that yet, and I believe we got our like legs swept out from under us.
We lost a unit very quickly, and then it went down to like 3 to 4 units, and we struggled with that mechanic for a second, because the unit that went down was, I think, cavalry.
The gnolls.
The gnolls went down real fast, and we were just like, we did all this for you, and this is what you got, But they were gnolls riding wargs,
or hyenas, but
giant hyenas.
I mean,
that's right. Close. Yeah, that's pretty close, honestly.
Yeah. And you had 3 different units of the Gashkala orcs, because there's 3 different like sub clans. So you had the Kastar, which are like the fast ones, so they're light infantry. The Maruk, which was Rurik's home tribe, who are like heavy cavalry or heavy infantry, like much stronger, smaller unit, but more like shock troops. And then the Vanka, who were like hunters, so they were like archers. And then the gnolls worked as cavalry, so they could have like a charge attack.
A lot of it worked off of like rock, paper, scissors mechanics. So it was like the cavalry was good against light infantry, but not good against like heavy infantry. Archers can't be attacked if there's infantry on the field, but they can attack anybody else, but they're not as powerful as infantry, stuff like that. Yeah. And then the daughters gave you a unit of ogres, rock throwers, who worked as a siege weapon. I remember thinking that. I was like, epic. I remember thinking, because you could actually damage the stronghold, Turakbar's fist, and hurt the morale of the enemies, which made it harder for them to resist.
But I believe we realized that they just do a lot of damage.
They also do just a lot of damage.
Started aiming them at.
Well, that was the thing. I think we had them aiming at the keep first. They were like, okay, no, we need to direct that somewhere else for a couple of turns. I think after we caught up on units, and then we're just like, all right, everybody else attack that last unit, we'll send the ogres after the walls, so they'll just do that.
One thing that I remember very, very vividly is the fact that the way that this combat system works is that you have to not only attack and hit their defense, then you have to roll the power, and that has to beat their toughness, right? So you had 2 attack rolls you had to make a successful hit. And I just remember thinking, I was like, I don't understand why Ben is playing this. Every other rule that we've made is to streamline the process of hurting something. And then like, this is like basically just 5 steps back. And the thing is, it was actually really satisfying, because it was used in a very
I remember thinking like, we would go like, all right, so 2 units in a row like failed one of their checks, and us is like, all right, well, we just fucking lost those 2 units for this turn. And it's just like, and then there was a chance, like, honestly, Ben rolls really fucking good, and he rolls out in the open.
It's not just good, he rolls more often as the DM, so you roll a lot more often. You just see higher rolls.
So it was fun though. It was like I really liked the challenge level of that, because it wasn't like in combat or with our normal characters where it was like if we didn't have advantage, it was, we would be like, oh, it's a fair roll. It's like, no, this was like, no, we rolled 2 fucking times in a row and I got the first one, but then the second one failed, so I don't do shit and it's annoying.
Yeah, especially when you're thinking like it's like a whole unit of infantry running into battle and like nothing happens.
Yeah.
And this was basically, I mean, this is what spell resistance was in third edition. Like you had to, not only you had to roll to hit with your spell, and then you have to roll with another AC basically on top of it, just so that they could not roll their save, which would then also potentially make it so that they couldn't get any damage. Yeah, almost as frustrating.
When we missed a couple of those 2 turns in a row, it was almost like, oh my god, are we gonna lose this?
Yeah.
This fight.
So we get through the battle, right? We get through this mechanic, and it's really cool that we got to implement it in that particular thing. And then we also had the boss fight going on within the keep. So the main party had like a map for this boss fight that Ben had, and it was in the heart of Turakbar's fist, and it was against it was against Turakbar himself, as this demon worshipping giant minotaur.
Yeah.
And then his clan of minotaur warriors that were in there with him.
Yeah, he had like a magical hammer that like knocked people around.
Yes, he did.
Oh yeah, that's where you got that. I forgot.
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
Oh my god, that saved our ass so many times.
So many times, just 5 feet. 5
I
feet
remember,
really matters.
But all right, so let's talk about the stuff we had to do for this fight. That was shortly after we had gotten Valen as a follower, because he came back. We had him just before Castle Ravenloft, I think, and then he came back with us because we were just like, we were interested that like he wasn't affected by Strahd as our undead, because it was like a different type of undead. It was really cool. At least I think that happened. Anyway, so we had Valen, we had Glory, the Coatl reborn. Valen was an undead paladin elf that we had found. So we had these follower mechanics that we were using that we had kind of been developing over the course of the campaign at that point. And then we had the 3 main characters, 3 main PCs. What else do we have that like we had to throw at this guy?
I mean, all the favorites, like the Earth Elemental. I remember
Earth Elemental. We could summon an Earth Elemental, right?
But I could say that about every fight. every fight since that Earth Elemental was summoned against us.
Bed's laughing on the outside.
Against
he's crying on the inside. He's like, yeah, that Earth Elemental guy is fucking great. Fucking great.
Deus ex terra, basically.
Yeah.
So
we ended up having this fight in the keep. I just remember being a very like difficult boss fight. I feel like he got a rage, or Ben likes to do this thing where the second half of a boss fight completely changes. So the twist there.
If I recall, he just summoned about 300 or 400 more hit points. Is what it felt like.
I remember, yeah. That was one where Bakram was in front, and he was like, "Okay, guys, we need to like wrap this up pretty soon. I'm actually taking a lot of hits."
Yeah, he was pretty tough. He wasn't statted up fully in 3rd edition. He was mentioned in the 3rd edition Eberron book, but he was statted up in the 4th edition Eberron book, and I use that as an idea to stat him up to make mechanics for him for 5th edition. So that's where I got like a lot of like his pushing people around with a hammer. I think he had like a reaction ability to like knock people down.
Yeah, we used villain mechanics for him. I think we did use villain mechanics for him.
Yeah, and he had a ridiculous amount of hit points. Yeah, he could charge and knock people down, and he summoned some demons halfway through the fight.
Yeah.
And the whole fight, the way we were playing the mass combat mechanics was basically you'd have like 1 round of the warfare units and then 1 round of you guys fighting the boss fight. So it had that like movie cinematic thing of like a big battle going on, and cutting back and forth between the main characters focusing on their thing and the bigger battle going on.
Yeah, and I think I remember like if we were doing damage to the keep, it affected the boss fight in ways. So it wasn't just like, all right, so we kind of want those ogres to be attacking those walls because it's going to affect the fight going on within, but we also kind of want to like direct those ogres at doing damage to something else. And so it created this really neat dynamic between the 2 scenarios.
Yeah. And the faster you could take down Turakbar, his army would be, heavily impacted if their leader was gone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think you guys end up like wiping out the Minotaurs. Like you guys, once the battle turned around, I don't remember having afterward in the aftermath having to talk about, so what do you guys do with the prisoners or the survivors? There weren't that many.
I think it was just the harpies that survived, if I recall.
And we
they
chased them off into the
exhausted
desert.
anyway.
We chased
Yeah.
them off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to their mountain areas.
Right. I remember that.
Right. Oh yeah, we weren't going to allow like other worshiping, like, demon worshipers
Yeah.
to survive. I mean, that is totally up our character's alley. It's like, and especially because it was the Maruk that stayed in frontline combat the entire time, and they are definitely not letting any demon worshipers alive. That's their whole thing, right? We didn't have really an option,
right,
to capture them. We had to route them. And that's
Yeah.
why it was so scary, because we're like, oh goodness gracious, like, what, even if we beat Turakbar, I think maybe our units are all going to be dead. We're going to have to like figure out how we deal with an army, and
Yeah.
also that all my family's dead.
So
I guess.
I honestly think so Ben does a great job during these campaigns if that happened, I know Ben would have rolled with it in some really cool way. Like that's just it presents a scenario, and that's all it ever is presents a scenario. It's like, all right, so I think in that instance, something likely would have happened, like we killed Turakbar, but then his armies are outside and our armies are dead. And it's like, okay, we have to fortify this fortress. How are we going to fight off this army? Or, maybe we get captured or whatever, and then like the hags have to send for it. I don't know. It could have been a whole bunch of cool stuff that happened after that. But we ended up winning the boss fight. We got through that awesome Minotaur and his minions boss fight. We get through the battle scene, and then all of a sudden we have acquired a fortress in Droam. And our characters then had a base of operations that we used from then to the end of that epic fucking campaign.
Our own Avengers HQ, if you
Avengers Tower. Yeah.
Yes.
Avengers Tower. Sure. So from there, we found some really cool stuff in the keep, and we had some really cool stuff going on in the keep afterwards. We filled it full of orcs, and then also we ended up going into Grey Wall at some point and recruiting people from there. We just used it as a base of operations. We found the Sacred Flame in the basement. That was a huge thing for the Gashkala because they worship the Binding Flame, and it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, and that's where like some of the stronghold rules from the supplement we were using came in, where you were able to kind of make it your temple. You were kind of following like this book that was like the Draconic prophecy, but obviously it was kind of like you were kind of like figuring it out and interpreting it to like tying together the inherent goodness of the Silver Flame with the dragon gods and how it all worked together for the greater good, and basically turn this font of the Silver Flame into your personal temple, which allowed you to like petition the gods for aid and like actually summon celestial beings to fight at your side in later battles.
Yeah, because each of us got keep abilities for being for actually getting the keep. Yeah. And so that was really cool how we each got something separate that was really powerful. Yeah, Bakram got, what was he? His was he could call a greater servitor. Yeah. And he had a bunch of different benefits. But it actually happened. Oh yeah, no.
It was calling on Siberis, right?
Yeah, he had to roll a die, and he had 4 levels. He could either go from like it being ignored to getting bonuses to summoning something minor or casting divination or summoning like a greater servitor or casting commune, which is like a 5th level paladin spell. So
and even that die roll was like influenced by like what had happened recently. Had you been fulfilling your oath? Had you got a penalty if you had like been assisting evil creatures? So like when something like that would come up, I'd be like, okay, if you do this,
you always made me justify. You always made me justify why I would feel like if I should get advantage on it, because I'd be like, well, we've done a lot of really good shit, Ben. I just killed a demon minotaur, okay? Yeah. I rode that one for at least 2 adventures. We did, and I didn't judge those hags. That's pretty nice of me.
Yeah.
I believe I got something like, we all got useful things like we could do as well.
Yeah, like some personal.
I think mine was like auto hits or something like that. I think like I got 3 per return back to the keep or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I'd have to pull it up. I know Bakram's was like, yeah, I remember Bakram's was being able to ignore a creature's resistance or immunity to radiant damage, or give them vulnerability to radiant damage, which he definitely used to ridiculous effect.
Yeah, that
At
shit was
some point.
great. that is what broke Bakram after a point, because it was just like, I'm just gonna do double radiant damage to you, and I do a lot of radiant damage.
And he would smite and just
Asteria got like, I could make the main party undetectable by scrying and other divination magic. As long as they're near the keep, I could heal myself equal to my sneak attack damage with a satisfying strike.
Do you have a mine up there?
Yeah,
too?
it was Chieftain's Rage. Target drops
Yeah.
to 0. When he drops a target to 0 hit points, he can allow an ally to move or attack and do it 3 times before needing to rest. Is arrested, and that was the thing. We actually had to rest at the keep to recharge these abilities. So if we were out on a long adventure and we use these abilities like right off the bat, there's a chance we wouldn't get to use them again for a little bit. So that was a really neat mechanic where like Ben did a great job of pulling us away from the keep quite often to go and do other stuff. And it's like, all right, how do you want to plan this? Do you want to go back to the keep to rest, or do you want to, keep pursuing this goal that you have? And
it kind of tied into like that old like King Arthur almost idea of like the rulers of the land being tied to the land and drawing power from it. And there was also stuff like minor abilities where like, as long as you were investing in the keep, that like the lands of the keep flourished in ways that were like unique to you guys. Like Asterio could like sense when people entered, or like, I can't remember all the details now, but it was like almost like little like minor flavor things. But there was a lot of things about, like you guys being tied.
I remember, I could sense if there was a demon within a certain range, a demon of a certain range. I remember that. Bakram could do that. Yeah, but like it opened up the entire, I felt like that was a turning point in that campaign. I was like, all right, these characters are established as a force on this continent. And where Trevor's character was doing a lot of political influence right after that, because it was like, all right, we're established in Droam, we have property, we have a fortress, we're working in league with the hags, who are trying to establish themselves as a governing body to the rest of the politic in Corvair. So it was like just this really neat turning point for the campaign, but we used it as a base of operations for all of the questing that we did.
And then eventually we got our own like airship. Right. Yeah. And we were able, it was like really easy to just, really easy able to zip around and just go right back.
I think it was the next adventure was the airship. The very next adventure was the airship, which was that's another turning point.
Another great thing to talk about.
That's going to happen.
I don't know if we have enough time.
No, not today.
One of the biggest things for Asterio was after getting the keep, the Eyes of Ondair pretty much told him, well, you're an ambassador to Droam now. Congrats. Go be an ambassador.
You got a promotion. It's lateral. Congrats.
Double responsibility, no pay raise.
But you got a bunch of loot.
It did give me access to a higher ability to draw on Dare when I needed their support for stuff. And
you had like you had the spy network where you could basically make like an investigation or check or something like that, and learn details about the enemy. Like wherever you were going, you could find out details and then use that to like gain advantage on the first attack roll of the fight or something like that. Like it was a mix of like lore, but also actual game effects of like learning what their vulnerabilities were and getting a bonus to exploit them.
It was really cool, like how that one battle gave us such a big boost to our capabilities and our versatility.
No, it definitely worked out really well, and that was such a really cool, and it was just like, it was climactic, it was cinematic and really epic when we were in the middle of it.
It was actually like, I don't know, it very much edited my character a lot. I added swagger from then on out to Rurik, because now he was a chieftain, now he was a warlord, and he wasn't that before. He was just doing the best he could.
And Bakram had a room for his hoard. He just had his pile of gold coins that he slept on.
And only Rurik was allowed in there.
And that was I really liked that. I really liked that part of like Bakram's personality too, where I was just like, no, he was raised in Argoness and he just feels like he's a dragon. Like he's a dragon.
Yeah.
It's part of it's like no one has told him otherwise either. And he sleeps on a pile of gold.
Yeah. And I feel like it really cemented you guys as like you guys mattered and were more invested in the campaign world all of a sudden because it went from I have a backstory, but really like the default D&D adventuring party is murder hobos. You might have like an organization you belong to or whatever, but it's mostly background stuff and really you guys just wander around doing missions for gold. But I mean, in theory, any logical kingdom would be terrified of like high level adventurers coming in with no ties to anything, because it's like you guys could just burn down the palace.
And then we'd have to sign the Sokovia Accords.
Exactly. But now you guys have.
We're not doing that again.
No.
Yeah. Now you guys were invested in something because you had a keep that you wanted to protect. And you had to return there and take care of it to keep your abilities. So. And
we had a little taste of that in Kabara. I remember that. And we can talk about that another time. Kabara was a great, fantastic chapter in this game. But it's been, I think that was just such a great adventure for us. I'm really happy that we got to talk about it today because it was one of my favorites. The battle system, the story behind all of it, and how it changed the campaign later on. It's just like so much good stuff happened. And I'm really glad we got a chance to actually shake that out.
We covered everything.
I think we covered all the good stuff.
Covered a lot of good stuff.
All right.
I mean, I can talk about what I had for dinner.
Next time on Roll Havoc, what Josh had for dinner. You're gonna have to stick around and find out. But this is Roll Havoc, here to remind you that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but so are paralysis, fear, slow, enervation, telekinesis, sleep, petrification, disintegration, and death.
Like it.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll Havoc.